Most agents are building a business that resets every January. They spend all year chasing strangers while ignoring the people who already know them, trust them, and like them to send them business. This is absolutely insane. After 24 years in residential real estate, here's what I can tell you. If you do not have a system to stay relevant with your past clients and database, you do not have a sustainable business. You have a constant lead generation problem. And one of the highest ROI, return on investment things I do in my business is a monthly newsletter. Not because it's complicated, not because it looks fancy, because it works. It keeps me top of mind. It keeps me trusted. And over time, it turns past clients into repeat and referral clients and long-term relationships. In this video, I'm gonna break down exactly how I think about my monthly newsletter, why it matters so much, and how I structure it, and why this one simple habit can quietly become one of those most valuable parts of your entire business. And I'm gonna save my most recent newsletter as a PDF below. Check it out in the link below. You can see exactly what I sent out to my clients last month. Let's get into it right now. See, most agents spend almost all of their time asking, how do I get more leads? How do I get more attention? How do I get in front of more people? How do I find the next client? Fair enough. You need new business. I get that. But here's the problem. Most agents are obsessed with acquisition and terrible with retention. They'll spend money to get new leads. They'll spend time chasing cold leads. They'll spend hours trying to get a stranger's attention. But the people who are already in their world, like past clients, their database, people who have already trusted them with a major transaction, well, those people barely even hear from their agent. That's where the leak is. Because if your past clients only hear from you once or twice a year, or only when you want something, you are leaving an enormous amount of trust, goodwill, and future business on the table. That is why so many agents feel like they're always grinding. Every year, they're rebuilding instead of compounding. And the monthly newsletter helps fix that. And by the way, I'm currently building a private community for residential real estate agents who want to scale without burning out. If you want more time, better systems, and a predictable business year over year, instead of this crazy feast or famine, I'll drop a link below. Be sure to check it out. No pressure, just something I'm building for agents who want to work smarter, not longer. All right, back at it. A newsletter is not just an email blast. Done properly, it does three things really well. Number one, keeps you top of mind. People are busy. Even clients who loved working with you are not waking up thinking about you as the realtor. That's normal. The newsletter keeps you present without needing to call everybody one by one every month. Second, it builds trust through reputation. One newsletter does nothing. One a month, that's good. 24, one a month over 2 years, start compounding every month, year over year. Well, people start to hear your voice. They start to follow you. They start to understand you at a personal level. What are you excited about? Where are you traveling to next? How you think. Watch what you pay attention to. Stay connected to what's happening in the world. That compounds month over month, year over year. Third, it keeps the relationship warm without asking for something. That matters because the second every communication feels like a pitch, people pull back. But when your newsletter is useful, human, consistent, it does the opposite. It keeps the relationship alive. Some real proof this actually works. And this is where a lot of agents miss the real power of it. A good newsletter does more than remind people you exist. It deepens trust. I had a client email me a few days ago. It really drove this message home to me. They thanked me for staying in touch. They mentioned the little things we do seasonally, like our pumpkins in the fall and our maple syrup in the spring. They said they enjoyed reading the emails about my business and my family updates. And here's the part that really matters. They were shopping for a second vehicle. They came across my recent Google review. I bought a Volvo recently. They came across my Google review at the Volvo site, and they told me it influenced them more than it might have expected. Think about that. That has nothing to do with buying or selling a house, but because the relationship stayed alive, because they kept hearing from me, because they trust how I think and how I communicate, they gave weight to my opinion in a completely different category. That's the point. The newsletter is not just sending information, it's reinforcing trust. And when trust gets deep enough, people don't think of you as the realtor you used once. They think This is someone I can trust. That is where referrals come from. That is where repeat business comes from. And that is where a sustainable business comes from year over year. So why most agents' newsletters don't work? Well, let's be honest. Most agents' newsletters, they're forgettable. They're generic. They're too long. They're corporate. They're self-focused. They're too polished in the wrong way. Or worse, they feel like a boring market report dropped into an email template. Nobody wants that. Your newsletter should not feel like homework. It should feel like a quick, useful update from someone people know. That's the standard. If it reads like a compliance-approved brokerage memo, people tune out immediately. If it sounds stiff, people turn off. If it's all stats and no personality, people will ignore it. So the goal is not to send something every month. The goal is to send something people actually want to open on a monthly basis. The reason my newsletter works is because it has a clear flow. It's not random. The subject line gets attention. The personal opening creates connection. The market update delivers value, and the rest of the sections keep it useful, local, and easy to scan. And the CTA, the call to action, opens the next conversation. That flow matters. Because a good newsletter should do two things at once. It should make people feel like they're hearing from a real person, and it should quietly reinforce why you are the professional they should keep thinking about when real estate comes up. That's the game you're playing. The subject line needs to earn the open. If the subject line is weak, none of the rest matters. The email does not even get opened. So I do not like a subject line like April newsletter, monthly market update. That's too bland. Too easy to ignore. A stronger subject line is relevant and specific. For example, your market is quietly tightening. Here's what that means. That works because it does three things. It sounds timely, it sounds local, and it promises interpretation. The last part is important. People do not want to hear more noise. They want help understanding what matters. And if you're an agent, your subject line should usually do one of these: highlight a local shift, surface a question homeowners care about, or explain something confusing in plain language. That's how you get the open. The beginning should feel personal. This is one of the most important parts of the newsletter. I do not think the email should open with stats. That's a mistake. My newsletter always starts with something personal. There's a photo of me and my kids, my wife, my family, or something real that's happening in my life. In my last newsletter, check it out below in the description. There's a PDF. You can download it for free. It's a photo of my dad, my son, and I at our latest development site. We're building a 10-plex in my area, and it was fun. I was there with my dad, who I've done a lot of infills and work with, and my son, who's 3 years old, who's just starting to kind of come up and obsessed with construction. That was a really fun time for me. But that was a moment that captured that I want my clients to know about. And that matters because right away, the email stops feeling like just another real estate email. It feels personal, familiar, human. Then I explain the photo, what's happening, what we're doing, what's going on personally, what's coming up that month. And that part is key because this is what makes you relatable, not just the realtor who's a robot buying, selling. Like, we all have lives, we all have families, we all have interests. So people do not refer you because your email looks polished. They refer you because they feel connected to you, because they trust you, because they remember you. And that opening creates warmth and the connection. And warmth matters. If you open with a wall of stats, a lot of people, well, they check out. But if you open with a real photo and a real story, they lean in. That's better. Then the next part of my newsletter is I move into a market update. So once the email feels personal, then I move the clients into the market update of specifically what's happening in my marketplace. That sequence matters because personal first, market second, not the other way around. Now the reader's engaged and they're warmed up and they're ready for value. And when I get into the market section, I'm not just dumping numbers in email. I'm trying to answer one question. What does this mean? That is where most agents get it wrong. They give stats, but they do not provide an interpretation. People don't need more raw data thrown at them. They need context. They need someone to explain it. Is the market tightening? Are buyers still picky? Are the best homes moving while average ones sit? Are sellers still overpricing? Does presentation matter more right now? That's the value. The numbers support your message. The message is not your numbers. Your interpretation is what makes you different. Anyone can copy and paste stats from the board. Very few agents can explain the market in a way that feels calm, smart, and useful. That is where your edge is. That is where you show judgment, not trying to sound clever, but by helping people understand what's actually happening in your marketplace. Maybe the market's tightening, but not evenly. Maybe detached is behaving differently than condominiums. Maybe buyers are active, but more selective and cautious. Maybe polished homes are selling and average homes are sitting. Maybe sellers are still anchoring to last year's pricing. That kind of commentary is what people remember, because this is when your clients stop seeing you as someone who sends emails and they start seeing you as someone who helps them make sense of the residential real estate market. That's a huge difference. The rest of the newsletter should be easy to scan and enjoy. After the personal opening, the market update, I want the rest to stay useful, local, and as I say, easy to scan. Because not everyone opens the email for the same reason. Some care about the market, some like the personal side, some want to see the solds that we did last month, some are curious what we have listed right now and what parts of the city. Some just want some light and useful information. And some, they're there for the seasonal or the local happenings in the area. Then I always add in the solds from the past month and the active listings we have. Why include this? Well, it makes the newsletter feel rounded. The seasonal or local section reinforces part of the community. The recipes give email something that are lifestyle driven. It makes the email more welcoming in the inbox. The solds show that you're active and what part of the city you're selling and your price points. And then the active listings create opportunity. Maybe they're thinking about buying. They want to see where our listings actually are. A neighbor may say, hey, they're thinking about buying a home in that pocket. Boom. They would have just read the newsletter and can make an introduction. Those sections matter because they give people multiple reasons to keep scrolling. And that is what you want. The CTA, so the call to action, should open a conversation. By the time someone gets to the end of the newsletter, you've already done the heavy lifting. You've connected personally, you've shown market knowledge, you've reinforced relevance, you've reminded them you're active. Now, the CTA just needs to open the door, not pressure them. I don't like aggressive calls to action, so I would not put it in my newsletter and force it upon my clientele. A CTA that I would use is something like this. If you're wondering how this applies to your street, your home, or your timing, feel free to reach out. That works. Because the goal of the newsletter is not to close someone in the email. The goal is to start the next conversation. That's the win. So what agents should actually include? Well, if you want a practical framework, here's what I'd include. Strong subject line, personal opening with a real photo, a short note explaining the photo and what's happening, a clean market update with your interpretation, something seasonal or local, a recipe, and then what you did the last month, what sold properties you've had, and then your active listings. Finish off with a CTA, a soft CTA. That's enough. You don't need to overbuild this. Simple is better. Readable is better. Consistent is the best. Why this builds a sustainable business? Well, this is the biggest point of this entire video. The monthly newsletter is not just marketing. It's a retention system. It keeps your relationship warm. It keeps you credible, and it keeps your name relevant. It creates compound trust month over month. That's why it works. People reply, people forward it, people stay connected, people think of you, and people eventually ask questions. And that is how the database starts behaving like an asset instead of a dead list that you just ghost. That is how you stop starting over year, January 1st. The biggest mistake to avoid when you start your newsletter. Well, do not be inconsistent. That is what kills this. If you send one newsletter, disappear for 4 months, send another one, then vanish again, you lose the compounding effect. You lose the trust. Keep it simple enough that you can actually sustain it. A good newsletter every month beats a perfect newsletter a few times a year, all day long. So when I look at why a monthly newsletter matters, here's the simplest way to put it for you. Most agents are so busy chasing the next deal that they neglect the relationship they already earned. And that guarantees a harder business than necessary. A monthly newsletter helps fix that. It keeps you top of mind, keeps you trusted, keeps you relevant. And over time, it helps turn past clients and database contacts into repeat clients, referrals, and long-term business. That's why I believe every serious agent should have one. Not because it's trendy, because it compounds. And once You've got people opening your newsletter, trusting your take on the market and reaching out with questions like, what do you think my place is worth? Well, the next skill you need is knowing exactly how to answer that question. So I recommend and encourage you to watch my next video right here, exactly how I do my CMAs. Check it out right now.